Happy New Year, Megan.
Well, Happy New Year, ladies. It's so fun to be here with you. Good timing, right?
Great timing. Here we go. 2024. We are ready. We are ready to actually treat our bodies well this year. I mean, how are you feeling about that? How are you feeling about the year ahead?
Well, I love benchmarks and I love, kind of coming through these seasons and this is a normal thing in our world and I think that sometimes we get ashamed or kind of frustrated with ourselves if we have this like new year, new you mentality. But I think this is so much of how God created us is going through seasons of life where we might have a little bit more burst of motivation. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so a lot of that happens at the beginning of the year. A lot of that happens at the change of the seasons, usually right before that burst of motivation. You get something I like to call seasonal fatigue, where you kind of lose a lot of your motivation. It kind of dwindles and then it comes right back up again. And so I think talking about this topic at the beginning of the year is an excellent time. We're kind of capturing on the moment where it is top of mind for a lot of people, our health, our fitness, our bodies. And a lot of that is coming off of the holidays where maybe we didn't make the best decisions, and that's okay. So good timing, all in all. Yeah.
Yeah, we love rhythms. I mean, rhythms are just good
Mhm.
because they do help us. They serve as our ally because they help us to reset and have these rhythms in our year where we reset. So, I would love to start first by really camping in what is happening in our bodies in midlife that may be different than what was happening before. And we're like, okay, something's going on and things aren't quite working the same way.
Well, first and foremost, it really comes down to our hormonal changes. So our ovaries are starting to slow down and they just stop producing, especially the big old hormone estrogen. And estrogen naturally protects and maintains a lot of things in our body. And as that estrogen production is starting to decline, a lot of other things begin to decline at the same time or become come to the forefront as more of an issue. And I think often we hear about menopausal issues of things like, hot flashes and brain fog and fatigue, but there's also these other underneath the surface issues that happen at this phase of life that are far more permanent and far more damaging than something like a hot flash. And these are the things that we really need to pay attention to. And these are things like our bone density, muscle tissue, and even inflammation. So, as that estrogen production starts to decline, we can really start to lose some bone density. And shockingly, in the first 5 to 7 years after menopause, women can lose up to 20% of their bone density,
Mm.
leading to things like osteoporosis and fractures when falling and feeling like I just tipped over in my kitchen and I broke my femur. What?
Yeah.
That's where that is coming from. You no longer have the estrogen pumping through your system that protects that bone loss. You have to do something now about it. You have to be more intentional. Same with the muscle mass. Starting around age 30, actually, for some of the younger listeners, starting around age 30, if you are physically inactive, you can start to lose 3 to 8% of your muscle mass every decade. And then over the age of 60, that accelerates. When you start losing muscle mass on your frame, that's where your joints really stop functioning well. That's where your metabolism declines. A lot of people blame their slowing metabolism on I'm just getting older. Actually, the majority of it is because you're actually losing muscle mass. You're losing live active tissue on your body. So if you're intentional about maintaining that muscle mass, your metabolism doesn't really decline that much, actually.
That's good news.
So it is very good news. And so the cool thing is that both on the bone density issue and the muscle tissue issue, that rhymed, muscle tissue issue, we can do a lot of things about it. This is not something, well, where you have to throw up your arms and say, oh, well, I better go ask my doctor for some new medications. It's like, let's, you know, think about maybe we can make some changes to our health habits, our daily habits to really stay on top of this stuff.
Yeah. So we probably have people who are thinking, yes, I'm probably behind in establishing those daily habits. And then also people who are thinking, oh, I could do something proactive now. I'm assuming that that's the better approach if you have that time on your side.
Absolutely. Yeah, being proactive is always going to be the better approach, but I don't want anybody to think that they are behind. Our bodies are amazing, absolutely amazing, and they really do respond at any age of life to good, healthy habits. There's never a time in life where it's too late to do anything. There are certain things as you get older that do set in that can create permanent damage. Once arthritis is in a joint, once osteoporosis is set into bones, we can't reverse that. However, we can surround those bones with more muscle mass. And I have trained many women throughout the years that have severe arthritis in a joint. And just by improving their joint mobility, the flexibility of their joint, and surrounding that specific joint with more muscle, they can't even tell. They have no idea that it doesn't even hurt anymore. So even though the arthritis is there, it doesn't impact their life at all. Same with the osteoporosis. We can surround those particular bones with a lot more muscle tissue and provide it a lot more support and structure. And even before osteoporosis sets in, we can actually reverse bone loss. So we can lay down more bone cells on bones. So it's never too late. It's never too late.
This is all so encouraging, Megan. I mean, truly. I mean, I'm thinking about people who are like, okay, good. Because the body is a miracle machine and it is working for our healing. I mean, that is the one thing that I always like. Movement heals the body and our body wants to heal itself. So it will continue to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of my favorite quotes is just the saying, be an active participant in your healing process too. Like that is really important. And I don't know if you recall the one parable where Jesus healed the blind man, and he could have, just like said a word or breathed on his eyeballs. But what he did was he made a paste in the ground and he wiped it on his eyes. And then he told the man, now you have to go walk over to the pool of Siloam and actually go wash off and do the thing. He basically was telling him, like, I need you to be an active participant in this healing process. Yes, I can do it for you. I could snap my fingers and make it happen, but I want you to participate with me in this. And I think often as we're going through life and we feel like, well, I'm just weak, I'm in pain, I'm out of shape, we're waiting for the solutions to fall on us, almost this like medicine mindset where really we just need to step up and be like, okay, I need to just become an active participant in my own healing process and take that first step in the right direction. And that's what has been waiting for all along.
Yeah, that phrase you just said, I need to become an active participant in my own healing process. What if we made that the health goal for 2024 instead of maybe some of the other things that we tend to think about this time of year as we're thinking about goals? But if that's our goal, then we're going to become more active. We are probably going to be eating better. We're going to be getting better sleep, all of those things that care for our bodies, because we're actively participating and making better choices. It feels like a kinder way that will maybe lead to the same results or even better results because we're getting to the why.
100%. This digs down beneath the surface of what's motivating you, what's driving you, and what your end goal is, and how you measure success. I think in our culture, and especially as women, we're just so familiar with measuring our success based on how the clothes look on our body, what the number on the scale says, how much body fat we have, just kind of these aesthetic measures. And it's not that those things are inherently bad, but they're very fleeting and they don't hold up when things get challenging. It's really easy to stop caring so much about what the scale says or how your clothes fit when you're having a bad day, but it's harder to stop caring when you're like, I'm in pain a lot. I can feel my function going down, regardless of how my clothes fit or look on my body. I just want to be able to move without pain and with full function and feel like I'm strong and can lift the bag of dog food and not worry about my back going out. Like those things really start to come to the forefront, and you can say, let that be my driving force. And if that's what I want, if that's my end goal, what do I need to do today to get myself there? And yes, all of these other maybe less important, the vanity metrics, I have to trust that those will probably take care of themselves too. Because when I look at the strategy of how I'm going to get to a body that feels good, that is no longer in pain, that is really strong and healthy and energetic, guess what? It's all the same things as you would do if you wanted to see the scale change too. So just like tilting your axis a little bit and pointing yourself in a slightly different direction can make all the difference in the world of how motivated you stay for the journey.
It's so good. Okay, well, I feel like you're already hitting on some, but let's talk about the 3 biggest mistakes that women make when they're approaching their health in midlife. What are they?
Well, I want to start with something that's a little bit more mindset, since that's kind of where we're at. And then I'll tell you a couple other more practical ones. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that we have just in midlife, but anytime as women, we are capable of doing all things and doing all things perfectly, or at least we think we are. And often perfectionism is the thing that will get us in the way or get in our way and sabotage our efforts more than anything else. Because we really feel like if I'm going to set about doing something, if I'm going to commit to doing something, I know I'm capable of doing it really, really, really well. So that's the standard I'm going to set for myself. And anything less than that, it's not really worth doing. So if you look out over the course of your month of what your fitness and nutrition plan might look like, you say, well, this is what I know I should be doing. I'm going to aim for that. And we don't give ourselves a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, a plan E when life hits the fan, because it will. It absolutely will. And so the biggest mistake, first and foremost, is coming out of the gate with this perfectionist mentality. And we've got to overcome that. If there's anything that you could do in 2024, if you can get to the end of the year and say, I no longer have a perfectionist mentality about my fitness and nutrition, then we've won. Like we can check that box.
Yeah.
If that's any box that we check, it's that one. So really that's one of the biggest mistakes that we make. And then on a more practical level, a huge mistake that we make in midlife, especially, is just losing our level of activity. We become very inactive. We look for chairs everywhere we go. Like, okay, let me sit down. I'm going to move from here to the next chair. And then I go to the next chair, and we just
That's
kind of
hilarious.
Right? We sit too much. And that alone is one thing that's sabotaging our bodies, is just being generally inactive. And I know for myself too, I have to catch this. I'll have a day where I'm like, I had a really great workout, and then the entire rest of the day, I just sit, whether it's at my desk, in the car, driving, on the couch in the evenings. It's so much sitting. And we just feel like, well, I checked the box of my workout. There we go. Box checking again. I checked that box of a workout. So now I have the credits built up to be able to sit the rest of the day. And if we just work on not sitting quite so much, the impact that has on our body, on our joints, your overall fitness and metabolism, it's unbelievable. And then on another practical level, it's not using our joints through full ranges of motion and neglecting our muscle building activity. So for many women in midlife, only walking becomes the primary form of fitness. And then if they want to amp it up a little bit, I go on a daily walk with my lady friend, like every day we go on these walks. I get to amp it up by turning that into a jog. But unfortunately, at this time in life, what your body really needs the most, and we touched on this earlier, is the muscle. And walking does barely any muscle, or does barely anything for improving and maintaining your overall muscle mass, let alone your joint mobility. So neglecting those things is a mistake too. So we just want to be more aware of, okay, we don't want to sit too much, but now that I am someone that is walking every day and moving every day, what can I do to be a little bit more optimal in the styles of movement that I'm doing to make sure that my body is working optimally?
It reminds me of watching that documentary on Blue Zones on
Yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah.
And that the people who are the places of the world that have the most centurions, so people who live over 100, they don't have, I mean, they do have some common denominators, but I just thought it was so fascinating that one of their common denominators was just that they're moving in different ways all the time. They're getting up and down off the floor, like in Okinawa. They're getting up and down off the floor, up until they're in their 90s. The ones in Italy, where was it in Italy? Where was it?
Sardinia.
Sardinia.
Is it Sardinia? Yeah.
They were walking up the hill to church every day
Yes.
and then down
Yeah.
the hill, right? So they're getting that even walking uphill as opposed to
Mhm.
flat. They're gardening, they're up and down with gardening. So it really is, they're not doing anything special. They don't have a designated workout time in their
Right.
day. They're just moving all day long. And turns out that causes longer life, which is so fascinating.
It's incredibly fascinating. I loved that show because it really highlighted what aging can look like. And we have this idea that aging is normally this thing where you just start to become more and more decrepit, kind of beginning in your mid 40s.
Mhm.
Like, that's not true. What happens is we stop using our bodies the same way, and our body just starts to take on the shape of a chair. And if really, our hips get super tight, our shoulders round forward, and
Yep.
we just start to look like a chair because everything is now so convenient. We don't have to garden anymore. We
Mhm.
don't have to walk to the store, to the market. We don't. And so now we need to, and those things are okay. We live in a more convenient world, which is wonderful. It just means that we need to be more intentional on the other side of it of, okay, since my normal activities aren't challenging me to be walking up and down hills or moving in these full ranges of motion, I have to do that intentionally.
So how does somebody like me who sits at a desk all day?
Yeah.
So I am that person who's like, okay, workout, check the box, and then go sit at my computer all day. Where when my kids were younger, I really would be on my feet all the time because I was constantly picking them up, putting them in the crib, picking them up, changing their diapers. And now I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
How do I actually move more if I'm trying to avoid the check the box, which
Yep.
would be just adding more activities where I check the box? Like what would that look like in a person like me's life?
Yes. What I like to do is something called habit anchoring. So you take one good, healthy habit and anchor it onto something that you're already doing, something that's already happening in your normal life. So you probably already eat lunch, hopefully. What you can do is anchor another good, healthy habit with that one. So at lunchtime, we can trigger the other habit of, and now I go walk to my mailbox and back. So I eat lunch first, and then I go for like a 5-minute post meal walk. You can do that at dinner too. You could also anchor to dinner time the habit of practicing some balance exercises. Maybe while you're brushing your teeth. Just the other day, I posted a video of some balance drills that you can do while you're brushing your teeth, more than just like standing on foot. Some things that actually are dynamic balance things that you can do while you're brushing your teeth. So you can anchor these simple little things to other things that you're already doing throughout the day, rather than feeling like you need to be doing multiple workouts all day long. You know what I mean? So you're
Mhm.
already doing these other things. Let's figure out ways to get you moving in more intentional ways alongside those other things that you're already doing.
Well, I saw you on Instagram the other day, Megan, and I was like, I'm going to watch Megan do this. And you were balancing on one foot where you were putting your shoe on. And then you were
Yeah.
tying, you weren't letting yourself put your foot down. You were like, putting on your shoe, tying it, and then putting it down and doing the other. And I thought, well, this is so
Socks too.
interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, was it
putting socks
socks?
on
Okay.
first. Well, socks and then the shoe and then the other foot, sock and shoe. Yeah.
I was like, go Megan. I mean, that's just something I don't really think about. Like, I wouldn't think about don't put your foot down while you're doing this, but it actually is increasing your balance. Brilliant.
Yeah. That would be another habit anchoring thing that you could potentially do is while you are just putting your shoes on, instead of thinking, where's the seat to sit down on to put my shoe, once again, looking around for chairs. How can I do this while also practicing my balance? And if you do that challenge too, of seeing if you can put a sock on and then tie a shoe on, like not just a slip on shoe, like an athletic shoe, and then switch feet and do the other one and see if you can do that whole thing without setting one foot down. It's very telling of where your balance is at this phase of life. And balance is definitely one of those aspects of your fitness that is largely overlooked. And when you combine poor balance with somebody that has very little muscle mass and someone has very brittle bones, you have a recipe for some major disasters. And so, working on your balance in these little movements throughout the day and little opportunities can go a long way to making your body feel more confident and not so scary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we see that, right? We see it in our parents as they're aging.
Yeah.
And like, I'm always like, don't fall, don't fall. I mean, it's true. The balance is
Yeah.
the biggest thing that I'm concerned about. So, okay, we talked about kind of the mistakes we're making. And I feel like,
Hmm.
okay, so now let's talk about the pillars of health in midlife that we can focus on,
Yeah.
which I'm assuming some are just the reverse of these, but go ahead and let's name them so that people can really be clear on what those are.
Well, the four big pillars, I like to use four. Some other people think of other ones, but it's definitely your fitness. And we've talked a lot about that. So just the health of the way your body moves. Nutrition is another massive pillar. But then the two other pillars that are just as important is your stress, like stress management, and your sleep. And if any of those four things are out of balance in one way, shape, or form, everything else is going to be tilted off as
Mhm.
well. So each of these things needs to get some form of your attention. And I've coached many women throughout the years where their fitness routine is spot on. Their nutrition routine is spot on. There's someone where this comes very naturally to them, and maybe they actually dabble on the side of being a little obsessed about it. So they never miss a thing.
Mhm.
However, you look at the other two things, they're so stressed out all the time. They have zero stress management strategies. Their body is just wound as tight as a top. They don't sleep very well. They have terrible sleep habits. I don't care how perfect your fitness program is or your nutrition is, it's not going to be beneficial to your health. It's almost like you're trying to swim upstream.
Hmm.
And so in those situations, I say, let's pull back. Let's make fitness and nutrition stop contributing to the amount of stress in your life, because this is bordering on being too stressful for your body. Let's scale that back so that these other aspects of your fitness can get a little bit more of your attention, and vice versa. I know some wonderful sleepers out there never exercise or have terrible nutrition. So there's that side of it too. So we just need to make sure that each of these four pillars of your health are getting your attention in appropriate amounts.
So let's talk
And
about, oh, go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say so my approach is when I feel stressed out, then I think I need to work out more because it helps me manage my stress.
Sure.
So because I can feel in my body, I feel better and then if I work out more, I also feel like I sleep better.
Yeah.
So how do those positively impact each other as well? I mean, can you kind of shore one up to help in another area? Because sometimes, for example, stress, I
Mhm.
may not be able to change the factors in my life that are
Right.
causing me stress, but I can control my workouts and I can control my nutrition.
Mhm.
Maybe I can control what time I go to bed. I can't always control if I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm up for 3 hours.
Mm.
But for a woman who's feeling like I can't change the stress in my life, but I can change these other things, how do you speak to her?
The other things do help you manage your stress. So one thing you can do is manage it. And they are all, yes, they are all intertwined. Because I don't know about you, but if you have a really poor night of sleep, the likelihood of you being able to make good nutrition choices the next day, you kind of don't care. You're like, just give me whatever. I'll eat whatever. Your likelihood of exercising that day goes way down. And you feel like things set you off a little bit easier. You get a little more stress. So I actually find that sleep is a bedrock of the other things.
Mm.
So for many people, starting with the sleep piece can be very impactful and make the other habits a little bit easier to address. But it's a ball that rolls. So if the sleep isn't happening, okay, then okay, what can we do to improve the sleep a little bit? Maybe we can improve your sleep hygiene. Maybe we can wear a sleep mask. Maybe we can go through some of those sleep therapies. But if that's not helping, let's definitely check the other aspects and say, okay, instead of taking a reactionary approach to the stress in your life and saying, I feel stressed today. Okay, now I need to do a stress management thing. I need to go work out or whatever that thing might be. And yes, exercising is very stress relieving. It does produce dopamine. However, there is a tipping point where if it's really high intense, it can tip over and actually be another stressor on your body,
Mhm.
which in a good neutral state, that's a healthy thing for your body. Doses of stress is really helpful for your body. However, when you got lots of other things and other avenues that stress is just like hitting you, sometimes doing really hard, high intense workouts could backfire. So you kind of want to just manage that a little bit and making sure that the workouts aren't always like the super high intense style of a routine. But I find it's really helpful for most women to have the proactive approach when it comes to the stress management. For myself, I have, regardless of how stressed I am throughout the day, I always have 3 different times throughout the day that I actively do something that is stress relieving, whether or not I happen to have stress that day. And so getting into the habit of what that might look like for you. For myself, I wake up at least half an hour earlier than the rest of my family so I can sit and I can read my Bible, I can drink a cup of coffee and not like I can just like absorb and think and ponder in a quiet place. And that is magic, for going into the day with a calm soul. Midday, I take a nap every day. I am a daily napper. I shut off my computer, have a cup of tea. I read my book for a few minutes and I take like a cat nap. Every evening, if I'm able to, I go for about a 20 to 30-minute walk, whether or not I worked out that day. The walk is not for fitness. The walk is for the stress.
Mm.
So every day I'm doing these 3 different things that help to relieve stress so that it's just part of my normal ritual, my daily life. And so when stress does crop up, you're not playing defense anymore. You're like, oh, I already have these things already happening. So I can't change what stress is going on in my life, but I really can change the environment that it's happening to. And that can really help.
How do you become a cat napper? I feel like I'm the kind of napper that if I nap, because I never nap, but if I nap, I'm going down for 2 hours. Like how
Yeah.
did this? I'm fascinated by your cat napping ritual. This is so awesome. How did you become that?
So Honestly, I think it's genetic. Okay, so this is really hilarious. There was a Thanksgiving a few years ago where my whole family was staying in town at my house. And about an hour after lunch, everybody in my family just like disappeared. And I was like, I'm going to go to my room and take a nap. But where did everybody else go? My brother went out to his car to take a nap. My dad went out to his car to take a nap. My mom went to the guest bedroom to lay down and take a nap. I went to take a nap. So it's so funny. We laugh about that, but we're like all nappers in my family, and they're like these little power naps. My husband is like you, Krista. He can't do it. It will ruin his day.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he drops into a deep sleep,
Mhm.
and you get into that phase of sleep where it's actually too hard to get you up and out of. And so you're either someone who does it well or you're not. So I don't have any recommendations of like, hey, this is tips and tricks for becoming a cat napper.
We'll just say power to the
But
cat nappers. Power to the
yeah,
cat nappers if you're one of them. I happen to not be. Okay. Do you track your sleep, Megan? Do you use an Aura ring?
I do. I have an Aura ring, but this is a recent thing. I never did before, but I find it kind of fascinating. I think it's really interesting to see how, okay, last night I didn't sleep so well. Today, let me pull back on the intensity of my workout today. Let me be a little bit more intentional of adding in some longer stretches, some more like soft tissue work, not so high intensity with heavy super heavy weights. Like, so it does start to show you this pattern of how your sleep can impact your body's stress response during the day. And so it is fascinating. However, it can be distracting for someone who's really more of a beginner
Mm.
who gets distracted by the gadgets and the things that are pulling them away from the basics because the basics always work. And this goes back to that perfectionist mentality where we feel like unless I'm tracking everything and doing all of the things, then it's not worth doing it at all. And that is simply not true. And the basics will work every single time. And you don't need a sleep tracker to be a good sleeper. You just don't.
Hmm. I like what you said though, of listening to your body. And I want to camp there for a second. You know, when I read
Mhm.
Fast Like a Girl, that was pretty revolutionary for me because I've been doing
Mm,
intermittent fasting for years, but I was totally not aware that women have to fast differently. And so that was really eye-opening. And it really
mm.
made me look again, maybe refreshed my assumptions about even the female body or even my personal body and how to listen to my body better and be more aware of the rhythms of hormones in the month and what my body needs that's different than other times of the month. So, how have you
Right.
learned to better listen to your body?
You have to slow down. You just do. And when I'm coaching nutrition, that's one of the first habits I coach is to slow down when you eat a meal, to take 15 to 20 minutes to eat a meal. And the purpose being, it gives you an opportunity to pay attention to how does this food taste? Where's the texture? Where are the flavors coming from? How hot is it? How cold is it? Do I like that temperature? Would I prefer it better if it was this other temperature? Where are my fullness levels at this moment? Am I starting to get more full? Am I now over full? The only way that you can notice those things is if you slow down. Same on the fitness side of things. If you rush through a workout, if you're like, okay, I've got 20 minutes to bust this thing out, the quality of your movements probably aren't going to be there. And so when you're in a point of life where you've got some pain, you have some joint issues, you're realizing, okay, I need to be an active participant in my healing process, that might mean that you got to slow it down and really pay attention to the angles, the alignment,
Mm.
which muscles are engaging. And I'll coach women where they'll do a bridge and they're like, I really just can't feel what I'm trying to feel here. And I'll be like, okay, instead of doing it that way, let's lift the toes, press your heels down a little bit more. And before you lift, I want you to squeeze your buns just a touch and be like, oh, wow, now I really feel it because of this, and like these tiny little tweaks can make a huge difference, but you can only do those tiny tweaks when you slow down and focus on the quality of movement over just checking the box, getting in, getting out, and moving on with your day.
Mhm.
I have a core program. It's just a free like 5-day core tune-up. And so many people get through that and they're just like little 10-minute long videos, and they'll get to the 5th day and they'll be like, I've never felt my core like that before. Like in such a thorough, deep, like holistic way, like this 3-dimensional way. How did you do that? Like, it wasn't even that hard. This wasn't like an ab blast, but I felt like that did so much more for my core than anything I've ever done before. It's like, because we slowed down, we were very intentional. And so all that to say, the only way you can be more mindful and pay attention to your own body and health is you got to slow it down. We can't be rushing through this anymore.
Gosh, that is such a good word.
Yeah. And it's very countercultural. I mean, that's just not the American way, right? The American way is to go fast and to check the box and to say, okay, I'm going to do this so that I can then go fast through the rest of my day. And I'm thinking about, as we are looking ahead into the new year, into 2024, what would it be like if we all said, slower is okay? And it's going to, when you slow down in one area, what I've found is then you start slowing down in others in ways that you are paying attention. So then you start slowing down, like a meal, for example. Well, if you live with other people and you are slowing down in eating a meal, chances are the people you are sitting with are going to be as well. Well, then how is that impacting relationships? Because you're sitting longer and you're paying attention. And not only are you paying attention to the food, but you're paying attention to the person across from you and how they're receiving the meal. And then it just feels like there's these ripple effects just from the concept of we're going to slow down in our fitness. It's then going to help us slow down in other areas. And that's a good thing.
It's a very good thing. And I like to say I'm on Team Tortoise all the time. With all the women I coach, I just want to keep reminding them all the time, like, we are on Team Tortoise, ladies. Like,
oh my gosh,
you are going to work around, you're going to look around and see everyone rushing past you off the starting line, especially right now at the beginning of the year. Everybody is rushing past you. They're the hare. And there is actually a day of this month that's called Quitter's Day. And as they all quit, because they rushed off, it was too hard. They white knuckled their way to that day. You're just going to keep slowly marching, plodding past them. And in the moment when you're going really slow and you think, all I did was a 10-minute like body weight only routine today. All we did were 4 exercises. How is that going to move the needle? You need to trust that this is moving the needle in a much longer way, in a sustainable way. You doing this today means that you will still be here doing the good and the right things 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 3 years from now. And if I were to ask anybody, that's probably really what they want at the heart of it. They really want to just be a healthy person all around, not someone that just constantly rushes off the starting line. Team Tortoise, ladies.
Team Tortoise.
Team Tortoise.
My gosh. My gosh. I think I often fall in the team hair category, not necessarily in fitness, because I am Team Tortoise, I think, in that, but just in life, right? So when you talk about the stress reducers and like all of those breaks in the day, I feel like I need to do a better job of that. 2024, I'm coming at you, Team Tortoise. Here we go. Okay.
We're coming at you real slow.
Yeah, that's right. You got to do it the tortoise way.
Yes.
The coming at you. I'm going to slow my speech down. Okay. So Megan, final words, like what's kind of your final charge to people as they are headed into 2024, hoping to have a renewed sense of health?
We
Did she
lost you.
freeze? Did you
You
lose me?
froze, Krista.
Oh,
We
okay.
lost
Okay.
you.
Oh,
You turned into
gosh.
a real slow tortoise. is what-
Okay. Okay. Well, Megan, tell everybody about this amazing course that you have going this month.
Appropriately, it's called Jumpstart 30. And the whole everything we just talked about is wrapped up in this course. It helps you do this to get the ball rolling on Team Tortoise, where day one is so easy and so doable. You don't get sore where you're afraid that you're not going to be able to walk for 5 days. We do movements that feel good, so you're excited to come back and do it again. Every single piece of it is so intentional to meet someone right where they're at, where they're like, I've always struggled to be consistent with my fitness. I've always struggled to prioritize strength training and mobility work. I've struggled with nutrition. I don't want to do the team hair thing. I want to do this in a really good, slow, steady way that progresses and puts me on the right journey. Don't look anywhere else. Like this is really where you need to be. So Jumpstart 30 is the course for you. It's all, you don't use any equipment. Like you can do it anywhere. It's perfectly balanced. Day 3 rolls around and it's a rest day and everybody's like, what? I don't have to do anything today. And we take Sundays off. Like it's so gentle and doable for every woman. And we really lay down the foundation that we just keep building one simple little block at a time. And there are people, ladies who I've coached in Jumpstart 30, that they are now like 3 years in of, and still in my programs because there's a full journey that I've created for them. And you're like, I've never been this consistent in my life with fitness and nutrition the way that I have with this, because it's so doable. It's so easy. So Jumpstart 30, I'll make sure you guys have the link. You can go to my website. Yeah, it's best place, best thing that you could do in January.
So great. And you have a podcast where everyone who wants more of you, Megan, they can get lots more.
Oh, yes. Self-Care Simplified. So we are anywhere you get podcasts, and we've got 2 episodes every week. So lots of really good bite-sized tips, good encouragement for the slow journey,
Mhm.
but also handling topics that are really pressing for women in midlife. We talk about bones, we talk about muscles. I have some amazing guests. And in fact, we're working on getting, you mentioned Blue Zones, we're working on getting Dan Buettner on the show this year. So
Amazing.
some phenomenal guests are going to be joining us in 2024. So make sure you come on over and check us out.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Megan, and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, ladies.